In a faraway kingdom, there lived a king who had everything he could ever desire, except for one thing: peace of mind. He was constantly plagued by fear. Fear of losing his kingdom, fear of his enemies, fear of sickness, and even fear of death. His days were filled with anxiety, and his nights were sleepless. He summoned the wisest scholars, the most powerful magicians, and the most renowned healers from all corners of his land, but none could cure him of his fear. One day, a simple monk arrived at the palace. He wasn't famous or wealthy, but he carried an aura of profound tranquility. The king, desperate, granted him an audience. "Can you cure me of my fear?" the king asked, his voice trembling with a mix of hope and skepticism. The monk smiled gently and replied, "Your Majesty, I cannot take away your fear, but I can teach you how to live with it, and in doing so, transcend it." Intrigued, the king agreed to follow the monk's guidance. The monk's first lesson was simple. He took the king to the royal gardens and pointed at a majestic, ancient oak tree. "What do you see, Your Majesty?" he asked. The king, a bit confused, described the tree's thick trunk, its sprawling branches, and its lush green leaves. The monk then said, "This tree has faced countless storms, droughts, and harsh winters. It has been struck by lightning and gnawed at by pests. Yet, it stands tall. Does the tree fear the next storm? No, it simply is. It bends with the wind but does not break. It loses its leaves in winter, knowing they will return in spring. It accepts the cycles of life and nature without resistance." The king started to understand. Fear wasn't something to be eliminated, but a part of life, like the changing seasons. The monk then gave the king a task. For 1 week, every time a fearful thought entered his mind, he was to simply acknowledge it like a cloud passing in the sky. He wasn't to fight it, analyze it, or let it consume him. Just notice it and let it go. "Observe your fear, Your Majesty," the monk advised, "but do not become your fear." The first few days were incredibly difficult. The king's mind was a tempest of what-ifs. What if my kingdom is invaded? What if I fall ill? Each time, he tried to follow the monk's advice. He would say to himself, "There is the fear of invasion," and then gently guide his attention back to the present moment, to the feeling of the sun on his skin, or the taste of his food. It was like training a wild horse, constantly pulling the reins back to the desired path. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, a shift began to happen. The king noticed that the fears, once acknowledged, lost some of their power. They were still there, but they were no longer a roaring fire threatening to engulf him. They became more like distant echoes, background noise he could choose to ignore. He realized that for years, he had been feeding his fears by giving them all his attention, making them grow stronger and more ferocious. The monk's next lesson took them to the bustling city market. The sights, sounds, and smells were overwhelming. "Your Majesty," the monk began, "look around you. Every person here carries their own fears. The merchant fears a bad season. The mother fears for her child's safety. The soldier fears the next battle. Fear is a shared human experience. It connects us." This was a revelation for the king. He had always felt so isolated in his anxiety, as if he were the only one suffering. Seeing fear as a common thread that wove through the fabric of humanity made him feel less alone. He started to look at his people not just as subjects, but as fellow travelers on a difficult journey. He began to feel empathy instead of just paranoia. When he saw a worried face, he no longer saw a potential threat, but a reflection of his own struggles. This newfound connection sparked a desire to help, to alleviate the burdens of his people, which in turn distracted him from his own. He invested in better infrastructure, fairer laws, and improved healthcare. He found that by focusing his energy outward, on serving others, his internal turmoil quieted down. His purpose shifted from protecting himself to uplifting his kingdom. The final lesson was perhaps the most profound. The monk took the king to a quiet cliffside overlooking the vast, endless ocean at sunset. The sky was painted with brilliant hues of orange, pink, and purple. "The future, Your Majesty, is like this ocean," the monk said softly. "It is vast, unknown, and we cannot control its tides. We can spend our entire lives standing on the shore, fearing the waves, or we can learn to build a sturdy boat and navigate the waters. Fear is the worry about what the ocean might do tomorrow. Courage is setting sail today." Despite the uncertainty, the king watched as the sun dipped below the horizon, and for the first time in years, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. He finally understood, fear was a product of the mind, a story he was telling himself about a future that hadn't happened. He had been living in a prison of his own making. The key wasn't to break down the walls, but to realize that the door had been open all along. He just needed to walk through it, into the present moment. The king returned to his palace, a changed man. He didn't magically stop feeling fear. The thoughts still came, but they no longer controlled him. He would greet them like an old, familiar acquaintance. "Ah, fear, you are here again." And then he would turn his attention back to ruling his kingdom with wisdom, compassion, and a newfound courage. He ruled for many more years, not as a king who was without fear, but as a king who knew how to live a full and meaningful life alongside it. This story teaches us a powerful truth. A fearless life is not a life without fear. It is a life where fear is not in the driver's seat. It's about acknowledging our anxieties without letting them dictate our actions. It's about shifting our focus from what if to what is. It's about finding purpose outside of ourselves and connecting with others. And most importantly, it is about embracing the uncertainty of the future and choosing to live fully in the only moment we truly have, the present. So the next time fear knocks on your door, don't pretend you're not home. Open the door, acknowledge it, and then politely show it the way out as you get on with the beautiful, unpredictable business of living. Thank you for watching.